Imagine this: a man in a clown suit, face painted like a joke, smile cracked open, bleeding from the mouth. He's not screaming, he's not fighting, he's apologizing for the color of his smile, for the way his laugh disturbed the silence, for daring to exist differently. They stab you, then ask why you're bleeding all over their carpet. You're not broken because you fell. You're broken because when you hit the ground, you said sorry to the ones who pushed you. This world teaches you to kneel before you've even learned to walk, to smile while your soul is rotting, to say thank you while they tighten the leash. You are trained, programmed, conditioned to shrink, to disappear into sorry, to turn rage into whispers and pain into politeness. But who benefits from that apology? Not you. Never you. It's for them. A leash. A quiet little chain they wrap around your neck with a smile. Every sorry is a little surrender. They made you believe that being kind means being silent. They cut you and hand you the bandage, but only if you say please. Apologies aren't about healing anymore. They're about control. A script you recite to keep the peace in a war they started. We apologize for feeling too much, for thinking too loud, for existing with edges too sharp for their comfort. And you were born with fire, but they told you to smother it with guilt. You're not sorry. You're just afraid to be unapologetically alive. You think you were born guilty? No. They trained you to feel that way, like a dog that whimpers before being struck, even when it hasn't done a damn thing wrong. You weren't born broken. They just handed you a cracked mirror and called it your reflection. Look closer. That mirror you've been staring into since you were a child. It was shattered long before you arrived. But every time you looked, you saw yourself as the problem. You ever wonder why? Because a lie is easier to sell when it's wrapped in guilt. They needed you ashamed. Ashamed of your thoughts, your instincts, your rage, your desire to stand up and scream, "I am not what you told me to be." From the pulpit to the classroom, from the judge's gavel to your mother's whisper, the message was the same. You are not enough unless you obey. Apologize for questioning. Apologize for being different. Apologize for not fitting in. Religion told you that even your birth was a sin. School taught you that silence is intelligence. Government taught you that order is survival. And all of them taught you guilt is good, because guilt makes you manageable. They built this house of mirrors, then blamed you for getting lost in it. They punished the fire inside you because it might burn the curtains of their illusion. You think the rules are for protection? No. They're for containment. A well-mannered prisoner doesn't rattle the cage. They dressed obedience in words like discipline, wrapped fear in phrases like respect, and called your silence maturity. But it was never about growth. It was about grooming, to make sure the system stayed tidy, predictable, safe. Not for you, for them. So when you stare at that broken reflection, just remember they made the mirror cracked. So when you looked in it, you saw yourself as broken. But you're not. You were just powerful in a world that fears power without permission, and now that you've seen through the glass, there's no going back. You want to know the moment I broke free? It wasn't when I escaped Arkham. It wasn't when I burned the money. It wasn't even when I turned the city upside down. It was that night in Gotham, cold, fog dripping off the rooftops like the city itself was sweating shame. They caught me, not with chains, not with guns, with eyes. Judgmental, righteous, clean little eyes. Cameras flashed, reporters barked. Cops dragged me into the light like a circus freak, as if the act had finally ended. And they expected it. That one word, that one surrender. Sorry. Sorry for the chaos. Sorry for the fear. Sorry for making their fragile little rules look like toilet paper in a thunderstorm. But I didn't say it. I looked at them, scared men in uniforms and even more scared men in suits, and I smiled. I smiled wide. Blood on my teeth. Ash on my coat. And not a flicker of guilt in my heart. That was the moment. Not when I became the villain, but when I stopped pretending to be the victim. I wasn't apologizing for how loud I laughed anymore. I wasn't apologizing for how ugly my truth looked on their pretty little streets. I wasn't sorry for refusing to play dead. You see, guilt is a leash, and the moment you tear it off, you stop walking in circles, you run wild, you become something else. They feared me before, but after that day, they couldn't predict me. And what they can't predict, they can't control, because a madman with nothing to lose is far more honest than a polite man choking on lies. I stopped saying sorry, and suddenly I wasn't a puppet. I was the puppeteer. All my life they told me to behave, to bow, to blend in. But when I refused to shrink, they saw me for what I was, a mirror they couldn't shatter, not because I was invincible, but because I had nothing left to apologize for. You ever wonder how they get you to behave? Not with chains, not with guns, but with guilt. Sweet, sticky, guilt dripping into your conscience until it clogs your soul. You feel bad for saying no. You feel bad for walking away. You feel bad for existing in a way that doesn't stroke their ego. And that is how they win. Psychologists call it social compliance theory. People will do things, terrible things, just to avoid the discomfort of standing out. You ever hear of the Milgram experiment? A guy in a white coat tells someone to push a button. Each push sends shocks to a stranger screaming in the next room. And most people, they keep pressing it. They obey. Why? Because an authority told them it was right. Because they didn't want to be the one who disobeyed. And that, my friend, is the human disease, the fear of defying the herd. They don't need to jail your body when they can cage your mind. And guilt. Oh, guilt is their masterpiece. Gaslighting. That's the magic trick. They hurt you and make you feel like the villain. You're too sensitive. You're overreacting. Don't be so dramatic. Sound familiar. That's how narcissists work. That's how toxic systems stay in power. They provoke your emotions, then blame you for having them. They use your empathy as a weapon against you. And when you finally snap, when you scream, when you leave, They say, now look what you've done. The apology becomes the leash. You beg just to restore the peace, not realizing you're apologizing to your captors. But I don't play that game anymore. They say I'm insane. They say I'm dangerous. But really, I just stopped falling for their tricks. I don't feel guilty for being different. I don't feel shame for saying no. I don't ask permission to exist. You want to know what real sanity looks like? Knowing exactly who's pulling the strings and laughing as you cut them. Because once you see through the guilt traps, once you stop dancing to their rhythm, you don't become chaotic. You become free. So now, they try to shame me. I hand them the mirror. And guess who looks ugly now? So here we are. You watching, me speaking. Both of us bleeding in ways no one else sees. They told you you're too much, too angry, too weird, too broken. And every time you bent, every time you forced a smile through clenched teeth, every time you whispered, I'm sorry, just to keep the peace, you gave them a piece of you, until what was left, a hollow echo playing nice for people who are never going to understand you. But you're not broken. You're breaking free. You were never meant to kneel. You were born to stand in the fire and laugh. I stopped apologizing a long time ago, not because I'm heartless, but because I was tired of explaining myself to people who only listened to judge. I stopped dimming my madness to make their sanity comfortable. I stopped watering down my truth so their lies could breathe, and you can too. You don't owe the world your silence. You don't owe them your guilt. You don't have to kneel at the altar of their approval. The world taught me to bow, to kneel, to whisper, I'm sorry for simply existing, but I stood up. And now they're the ones screaming. You want freedom? It's not found in being polite. It's found in being real. No more apologies, no more pretending, just ashes. And honesty. So go ahead. Walk through the fire. Don't flinch. Don't bow. Let them watch. Let them whisper. Let them choke on your truth. And when the smoke clears, you'll still be standing, unapologetic, alive, free, and now. You. Yeah, you. The one watching. Tell me, what's the one thing you've been apologizing for that you know deep down you shouldn't? Drop it in the comments. Spit it out. Bleed if you must. But this time, don't say sorry for it. Your story matters. Your scars matter. And someone out there needs your truth more than your silence. Let's start a fire down there, one confession at a time. Because the moment you speak without fear, that's when you take your power back.